Crime Stop Jamaica 311, in association with TVJ, Musson Foundation, National Bakery, King Alarm, and Grace Kennedy present CS311 with Deirdre Dixon and Leroy Hall.
Being a woman definitely has its benefits, but from sexual harassment to rape to domestic abuse, sometimes it feels like the world is at war with us women. No wonder it's hard for us to feel safe.
I feel very bad sometimes, because you stay home, you're afraid to come out of your house and all of that because of the whole heap of crime, and you're afraid to send your children at school. And all the other little things them around you were used to go on, like a little party, like a this, like that. You have to stay home, nobody don't want to come out. So it affects me a lot and other rest of people who are around me.
I've been told many stories by my mom of what happened to her when she was younger, of almost being held up and stuff like that. So with all of those stories being said to me, as well as my aunts and stuff, I have been very vigilant when it comes to me being on the road by myself, and I tend to always be in survival mode.
Well, yes, it affects me as a Jamaican very much, because many nights church would open and we cannot go to church in the night because of the crime that is going on, and it affects us a lot. And we are sorry to know that Jamaica has gone to this.
Did you know that UN statistics estimate that as many as 35% of women worldwide are victims of violence at some point in their life?
Unfortunately, most of this violence is at the hands of an intimate partner. This week on CS311, we explore crimes against women in Jamaica. Jamaican women are the very definition of what it means to be strong. Single-handedly, many of our women head households, raise and educate their children, and support families.
Women are now also major players in the corporate world. We hold some of the highest positions of influence in this country. But as powerful as we have become, just like girls and women across the world, we are still prime targets for crime.
Paula Martin was not standing exposed on a street, but was tucked away safely in the most trusted of places, her home. Or so she thought.
Devon District, near Chudley in Manchester, 10:20 p.m. on Tuesday, August 20, 2013. Paula Georgina Martin was in her one-bedroom apartment in the family home. Family members heard dogs barking and knocking on Paula's window and presumed a friend had come to visit. No one knows what transpired, but at 11:40 p.m. cries and screams were heard. Siblings went to investigate but were met with hostility from an unidentified man. After throwing a bottle, the man covered himself with a sheet and calmly walked away from the scene. He discarded the sheet in farmland behind the home, leaving the police to theorize that he must have been familiar to family members. The police arrived to find Paula Martin's body in her bathtub. She had a severe blow to her head and had been suffocated and strangled.
Well, it affected me very, very bad. Because I have the hypertension and most night I cannot sleep. Most time when I ready to sleep, I have to just jump up, get a little water to drink. And it is very, very hard and difficult.
It's not easy to wake up in the morning, especially when I'm in the kitchen, I see her green cup Sometimes I drink out of it, and to know that she's gone. She can't come back. No more Paula. Paula can't come back.
If the person who did this act to my daughter, if he was a boyfriend of her, come and talk the truth why he did it. You see, for her, I don't know what's wrong. And it is not right, because directly he's from a mother and a father as well. You see, and that person's supposed to have children. And what he don't like for himself, he's not to do it unto others. And I would like them to come forward and talk what happened.
I don't know why he did it, but it's just hard. It's so hard. Sometimes I pray that he will have a change of heart, and that one day he will give his life over to the Lord.
She's very headful, she works, she's not lazy. You see, and she's very attentive to me. You see, and that night, boy, I'm telling you, it's more painful up till now because I couldn't cry.
The family of Paula Martin is looking for answers. Can you help? If you know anything, the number to call is 311. More on crime and women when we get back. They say rape is one of the crimes against women, leaving the most physical and emotional scars, whether it was by someone known or unknown to the victim. The Jamaica Constabulary Force's Statistics and Information Management Unit states that reported cases of rape have steadily decreased over the last 5 years.
Encouraging, but not enough to breathe a sigh of relief. Women are vulnerable at home and on the street.
We had just had a party at our house. It was the end of a Christmas season, and guests were leaving the house. And all of a sudden, I see people being ushered back up the driveway by 3 young men who had come with lengths of rope, who pushed them back through the house, tied up the people as they brought them in, flung them on the floor, and then started to ransack the place. But then they grabbed me and took me to another room where they raped me. I wasn't aware at the time of how many raped me, because in rape you blank out. You're not in your body when this happens to you. I know that they cut with the cutlass my pants that I was wearing, which was a cotton pants. And after the rape, they took me back out, flung me back in the floor, and said to the children's father, "See your gal there." And then they went for 3 other people, 3 other women. And sort of mayhem going on. None of us could get free. They hit me when I tried to get free. The thing is that my baby woke up, my youngest child woke up at that time. And they'd been there for about 2 hours ransacking the place and everything. And when the baby started to cry, they brought me into her. They asked who the mother was, and I said I was. And they made some remarks about nice little brown picnic. Then the guy took her very gently out and put her in my arms and sat down and started to talk to me. Basically, he was a gang member, and he'd gone to high school and he got involved in a gang. It was really all part of the robbery, this rape. It was just showing that you can take anything. You can take women, you can take anything you want. And the more and more I've worked as a therapist and working with women, the more and more I have found out that many times when there are robberies in a house, nothing is ever said about it. But nothing's ever said about the robbery might be, but nothing's ever said about the women and what happens to the women in the house, because I would say in about 80% of the cases, the women are also raped in those houses as well. It's part of the power thing. Rape is a crime of violence and a power play. Afterwards, there was the horrific thing of going to the police, etc., and going to the MOH to have to report it, and hearing things like that people make these remarks like, well, at least you weren't hurt, you know? And then to get medication afterwards, at that time, because this was in the early 80s, a lot of the medication was not available. I think two of the most horrific things that came back to me was weeks later. One, when I found my clothing, I had kept myself going by saying at least they didn't discharge inside me, but then when I saw the clothing I realized they had. And it was that, plus I then developed this dreadful itching and realized that I'd got lice. I'd been treated with antibiotics, and I'd been treated with, well, they didn't have AIDS medication in those days. And when I went to the pharmacist, it was in the early 80s, and wrote a note and asked him for this. He just looked at me and said, "We have nothing for that." Like I was dirty, you know. I was just, how did you get these, you know? And so then I just quietly said to him, I was raped. Then he mixed me up something for it. He had the stuff there. He just wasn't going to deal with it because he just saw me as just being some kind of a white woman messing around with people. I don't know. There were things like that, attitudes like that, that really made me see how difficult it is for rape victims to talk out, because there was I, a trained psychologist, and having to go through this and go through the traumas afterwards that come up, and not getting any support from people around with the remarks that were made, etc. At the institution, for instance, that I worked at, a tertiary level institution, I was called to the principal's office because I had decided with a group of male students who had made some remark that I would talk to them about rape. And I told them I had been raped, and I said anything they want to ask me they could, because maybe they'd never have that chance again of what it was like. The first question I was asked was, did you enjoy it? There is this myth that because it's a sexual act, it must be pleasurable. People have no idea of what that victim goes through. And of course it could not possibly be pleasurable. It's actually painful in many ways, mentally, physically, psychologically. The damage stays unless people get help. And many, many women in Jamaica get no help whatsoever for this. And men and children, young boys and young girls, and get no help because it's silence. I'm talking out because talking out lets people know the gravity of the situation. It is not a sex crime. It is a sexual offense, but it is violence. There was another case too, which again happened in my home. My home is a very secure home, but it was an older home and had across the top of one of the windows in the back, those little small little windows about this high. And somebody got in through that by taking out, I don't think there's any around this house here, taking out the little small blades out of that. And actually they must have taken this out during the day. I have a day's helper. It must have been on a day they had uncemented them and got into the house then. This guy had been, after I was raped by him, it got out that 2 women down my road and 2 others nearby had also been raped by the same guy. But of course nobody says anything. So nobody knows or is prepared or is on the lookout because everybody's keeping this quiet. If we keep this quiet, we only are protecting the rapists and they can carry on with what they're doing. We're not helping anybody by keeping it quiet. I did nothing to myself. My home was my place of safety. After that second rape, I couldn't stay in that house at all. What made it even more frightening for me is that my little girl, who was then 3 at the time, or 4, had come in and was lying when I opened my eye, when this person put their hand on my shoulder and neck. When I opened my eyes and saw this face, out of the glance of the corner of my eye, I saw my little girl on the other side of the queen-size bed, sleeping sweetly. He held an ice pick the whole time into my ear here, so that I wouldn't move. He told me to go on like I'm enjoying it. I just wanted to get that over and done with so quickly in case he ever came near my child, because I don't know what would have happened then. And then he left, and I found he was the same one who had raped several people the same way, and nobody said anything about it. We have to talk about it. If you have been raped and have not dealt with this situation, please try and see somebody. It's not your fault. It's not you to carry the shame, and it's not up to you to carry the guilt feelings. There is nothing like that. It's nothing to do with you. Incidentally, when this happened in my own home, the police asked me the common question. Fortunately, they've stopped doing it now. What were you wearing at the time? I was in my nightdress in my own bed. I thought safe. That's my story.
We want all Jamaican women to be safe and feel safe. Next, CS311 gives us some helpful tips. Stay with us. More in a moment.
Today, our focus is crime and women, and on how to protect yourself. If you, like our last guest, becomes the victim of rape, what should you do immediately, and where should you go? Let's see.
Did You Know? Brought to you by Musson Foundation. If you've been a victim of sexual assault, please adhere to the following as closely as possible. Do not blame yourself. You are in no way at fault for what has happened to you. As hard as it may be, do not bathe before making a report, as this will destroy potential evidence. You may want to rid your surroundings and memory of all that has occurred, but please do not destroy or dispose of what you were wearing. They may be crucial in building a case against your attacker. Make a report to the police immediately. If you are in the Kingston area, report directly to Sissoko, 3 Ruthven Road, Kingston 10. There are a number of Sissoko representatives at stations island-wide. If there is not one, then make the report to the police and ask to be directed to the nearest Sissoko office. If you are a victim, survivor of a sexual offense, specially trained members are available to talk with you. They should and will respect your confidentiality. Immediately arrange for medical treatment and examination. Provide initial support and counseling to you and any close member of your family. Refer you for additional professional counseling if necessary. If you've been the victim of sexual assault, you must contact Sissoko, the Center for Investigation of Sexual Offences and Child Abuse, 3 Ruthven Road, Kingston 10, 926-4079 or 926-7318.
It takes just a second to become a crime victim. When you walk on the streets or out in public, pay attention. While you are not watching, they may be watching you.
Hey, how are you? I haven't seen you in a little while, Mrs. Mack.
Well, you know, I haven't been that well, you know.
Oh, that's why I never saw you in church on Sunday.
Yes, you know, I'm not feeling so good. Sometimes I'm up, sometimes I'm down.
So what about the grandchildren now? How are they?
Grandchildren, they're fine, you know. They're good, you know.
Your big son, he live in Florida?
Mrs. Mack? Wow, what a surprise! I haven't seen you in a good while. How are you? I know you must be saying you don't remember me, do you? It's me, man. You know, Jeremiah. I always sit in the last pew next to Mr. Bartholomew. You may remember him? The one with the no. But anyway, how have you been? I haven't seen you in church in a long while. What's wrong?
The pain in my shoulder keeps coming back, and you know, I can't sit in the church too long.
Well, I heard that you were sick, you know. Yes, oh, you feeling better now?
I was just picking up my prescription for the pain.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Well, how the children? Oh, it's your son, the one that lives in Florida. Yes, I remember he always used to come to church with you, you know. Yes, I think me and him are about the same age too, you know. Yes. I would love if you could give me a lift. You know, I'm not going all the way up to Barbican. You can drop me right just before you get to Barbican.
So, they know your name. They seem to know something about you.
But do they really know who you are? That is, unless you just handed them all the information that they need. Scammed again. Even when you're not watching, they may be watching and listening to you. Don't make it easy. That one mistake could cost you your possession, or it could be your life. Don't be scammed.
You know, some would think that with crime as it is, it's logical that as women, we should be able to carry tasers, pepper sprays, or pocket knives to protect ourselves, right?
Well, think again. All of these items are labeled as offensive weapons and are illegal for both women and men to carry. But that doesn't mean that you have to be left defenseless. Ladies, this next segment is for you.
Safety tips brought to you by King Alarm.
Gus.
This is karate. Karate is for health. Karate is for sport. Karate is for self-defense. All of these techniques are aimed at soft targets. The ears, eyes, mouth and nose, throat, groin and toes. Gillian is a black belt with years of training. But these techniques could be useful if you were ever to find yourself in jeopardy. The ears. If you're grabbed, move in towards your attacker and slap both ears simultaneously with all your strength. You could also grab him behind the ears, pulling his head towards you and striking to the face with your knee. He'll let you go, run. The eyes. Strike with both thumbs extended, pushing them into his eyes. Alternately, you can slash across the eyes and nose using your fingernails as weapons. For the mouth and nose, a straight punch or palm heel strike can cause serious damage and create the opportunity for you to escape, run, scream, attract attention. The throat is a very soft target. You can grab and rip at the trachea or use a knife hand strike to create great pain, distract the attacker and get away. The groin. If you're caught from behind, suddenly shift your entire body to the side and strike a heavy hammer fist blow to you know where. If he grabs you from the front, grab both ears, pull him down and knee him sharply in the groin. The instep and toes are full of nerves, so stamping hard, especially if you're wearing heels, can create yet another opportunity to flee your attacker. Self-defense techniques work. Karate teaches you discipline, self-confidence and awareness, keeps you fit and helps you to defend yourself.
The world is not always a safe place, but all of us can do something to help make it safer. Be aware, alert, and don't make it easy for the criminals.
Most of all, if you have seen or heard something that could help in the fight against crime, please don't hesitate to pick up your phone. The number is 311. One easy call could make a big difference to the families of Paula Martin or the missing people we have shown tonight. We leave it in your hands.
Many thanks to our sponsors, Musson Foundation, National Bakery, King Alarm, and Grace Kennedy. Until we meet again on CS311.